Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. A very good afternoon to our respected Tuan Haji Khalek bin Awang, founder of Khai Awang and Associates. Okay, today we would like to ask a few questions about entrepreneurship. Okay, let's start with a quick question. How are you, sir?
Good, Alhamdulillah. How are you, everybody?
Alhamdulillah, sir. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
Okay, sir. The first question. When is the firm established, and can you tell us the background of the firm?
Okay, this firm was set up in 1998, July. So it is a legal firm actually, and it is registered under with the Bar Council of Malaysian Bar, under the Legal Profession Act. What year I can't remember. So it is professional bodies registered with the regulatory body, and it is regulated by the Legal Profession Act.
The next question, sir. Why is the firm named as it is?
Apparently it is under the practice, the legal practice. Normally, since they are professionals, so normally they are put, or the name of the founder or the name of the professional involved will normally be used as a trade name. So therefore, then since there are only one founder and co-founder, so we decided to use apparently my name as a name of the legal practice. So the name is registered and it is not notified with the regulatory body, and it is accepted.
The next question: what kind of challenge that you go through when you start this company?
Okay. The challenges is variety, and the challenges will be continuous. If I may have the time, firstly, the challenge is about to decide whether it is the right time or not to set any particular business. So when we started in 1998, then you were still small, I think, or maybe not yet born. So then was the financial crisis. So our country's economy was booming prior to that, recording even 2-digit of economic growth of GDP. But suddenly in 1998, there was a financial crisis due to financial speculation in the ASEAN. They call it Asian financial crisis, allegedly triggered by the activities of currency speculators by the name of George Soros. So as a result, we were many trillion poorer than before. So so many people were afraid to start businesses, and some of the businesses were closed because of the financial crisis. But we started just right at the worst period of the financial crisis. So when but I believe that there is no right or wrong time to start a business. So if you so decide that you need to start a business, just do it. Just like now, for example, in during the COVID, and so many businesses closed down. But again, there are also businesses that just started operating. So again, I would it made me recall 20 over years ago, where there was a financial crisis, and we know that there was no right time or wrong time to start a business. So similarly in the current situation, so therefore, but it is more challenging. Even though it is more challenging, but there will be some people say that it will be a good time, because most of the businesses are closing. The businesses with heavy overhead are closing down. So if you start business with small overhead, then it can be sustained. Okay, so the challenges, other challenges, I think that if I can recall, is when you start a business, then you know something that maybe 50% at least of the things that you studied in the classes, in the textbook, from your lecturers and professors, you can keep for a while, because you will need to develop a different set of skill and also ability. For example, I think in business, at least 50% of the business activity is actually marketing, or the process of getting the business, the work for the business. And during my time, at least, I do not know about your time, but during my time, we learn nothing about marketing or meeting people, for example, or trying to persuade and negotiate with businesses to get business. So this is something that is totally new for a fresh graduate, maybe. And so this is something that is interesting for you to know, to enable you to prepare before graduating and before starting. But I think starting a business and learning this new skill is a process. It doesn't mean that if you don't have this marketing and negotiation skill that you cannot start a business. So you can just start business at the same time learning through experience. But my point is this negotiation skill and marketing skill is really a big challenge in doing any business. And similarly, it applies to the legal practice also. I think that is the most obvious challenges that I can recall 22 years ago.
The next question, do your company involve in any charity activity?
Charity, it depends on what you mean by charity. If charity is giving out money or sponsorship, we do, but not that much. Occasionally, we have requests from students, organization, and charitable organization to sponsor something, then we'll do that. But other form of charity, which we consider charity, is, for example, to accept students for internship, even for chambering or practical. To me, we consider it as a charity, because it is more on our side to teach them rather than we gain from the employment of their services. So in that sense, we do some charity, but of course, the main orientation of our business organization is for-profit organization.
Yeah. My name is AIDA. My question is, what is your company mission and vision?
Our okay, our vision is we do some business business plan. So we stated that since we are a legal practice, so we want to be the best legal service provider in the country. So it doesn't mean that we have to be big, but in terms of quality of service, we want to be among the best service provider in the country. Yeah.
Oh, understand. Next question is, this is personal or partnership company?
This is a partnership.
Oh, partnership.
Yeah.
With
So it is a partnership. So therefore, partnership law applies, but it is registered with under the Legal Profession Act. So in terms of legal structure or business structure, it is a partnership. So maybe by now you have studied some business law, I think, and you can differentiate between sendirian berhad company, entrepreneur, partnership, and sole proprietorship. I think so.
Okay, the next question is, what is the reason for you to operate your business in startup?
Okay, it is both by default and by design. Okay, when I wanted to start the legal firm, we were looking for a premise. Of course, the best place to do business is at the busiest place, and startup is still in Kuala Lumpur. And it so happened also that my friend has an office there, and he was inviting me to use part of his office because the office only occupied by 2 people. So he invited me to utilize another half of the office to start the business. But after 2 months or 3 months, when we start to get more and more cases, so I decided to shift the office also in Stapak, but in a different premise. So that's where we started the business. It is in Kuala Lumpur, but relatively it is still cheaper than in terms of rental compared to the Golden Triangle in Kuala Lumpur. So as you know, in business, for most of the businesses, unlike the online business, most of the businesses, since we are of service punya orientation, we are service provider, location plays very important role. And 22 years ago, it is not like now, where people normally don't meet online like this. This is something new. So if you want to meet a lawyer, you have to go and meet physically. So therefore, the location is very important, and Stapak is still very much in Kuala Lumpur, with the rental slightly is a lot lower compared to the city center. Yeah.
Okay, next, about the process of your business, did you use your own capital money or make a loan from the bank?
Okay, when I started, we don't take any loans actually, because professional services like us, the capital is basically the knowledge and skills. So it is from my savings and from other small income from other sources. So because the cost is not much, the cost is only to rent an office and then to have a laptop to have a printer. Last time we have a fax machine, even though nowadays we don't really use fax machine. And then you need some table, some chair, delivered the work order excellently to their satisfaction, and they will come again. So in order to make the client satisfied, it depends to the kind of businesses. Okay, if in the legal business, and I believe in many other businesses, you must be knowledgeable, because nowadays people are clever. Customers are clever. They are qualified. They are educated. So therefore, they are knowledgeable. So therefore, you have to be more knowledgeable than them. I remember when I started the legal practice, I read and read. I thought I read a lot more than at any time when I was a student. I have a basic degree. I have a master's. I thought when I do the master's, I read a lot already. But it turns out that when you start doing your own work, you have to study a lot more. You have to read a lot more. But now, when you read, the motivation is different. Because when you are a student, you read because you want to pass the exam, right? But when you start working and you do your own business, you read for your bread and butter. Yeah, you read for the income, for the money. So therefore, the motivation is a lot greater. But the pressure also lah. And so I think we come back to the first advice is the customer, the discipline, and it follows with the customer satisfaction, because the one at the end of the day, the one who give you money, the one who pay your salary, and the one who pay the salary of your employee are actually your customer. Okay? Discipline is one thing, and then the marketing is one thing, as I mentioned earlier. Other than that, about the business organization, I think the basic thing of a business must do is to have the account or accounting, the calculation part in place. Okay? From my experience, my own experience, and also meeting clients, a successful businessman or businesses always keep track of their account. In other words, how much is their revenue and how much is their spending. It is very simple that the spending shouldn't be more than the revenue. Yeah? The spending shouldn't be more than the revenue. And you have to prioritize the spending. And by looking at the balance sheet, then you will see, you will have to find the ways how to increase the revenue, how to reduce the spending, or to balance the two. Yeah? Of course, this is a very basic advice, but these two things are very important in business. I've heard friends and also clients who has got a lot of business. They have a lot of projects and work order and all that, but they never keep the in and out, the revenue and spending properly. Therefore, they do not know how much they spend, and it ends up that they spend a lot more than their revenue. So, however good the business, you will not be able to sustain the business in the long run if you don't keep a balance between these two. I think that is a basic advice in business.
Okay, so next question is, what is the future planning for your business?
Future planning, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Currently, we are talking about two things. The immediate one is COVID issues. And the COVID things will not go away any soon. It will stay there for certain time, maybe longer than we think. Okay, and by the time the COVID disappear, which we do not know when, things will not be the same again. The businesses will be very slow, the unemployment will be very high, and we are talking this about global phenomena. Maybe the crime rate will be higher because of the unemployment, and this happened globally. So no businesses has come up with a very comprehensive plan or idea on how to face this. But we cannot avoid, but we have to plan something to handle the current and also the resulting situation from this pandemic. So it is a good time for every businesses to think how a business will be sustainable in the prevailing condition. Okay, so we have to take steps. For example, to increase the use of online punya transaction and also consultation and online meeting. Of course, to be more productive. For to find also ways and means to do business, which is not done by any other organization before, especially which is more acceptable in this pandemic situation. So basically, the keyword is to adjust our business so that it can be sustainable, even though the pandemic will prolong for times that we do not know. Okay, globally, the numbers of infected are still on the rise. So there is no sign of reduction. It is on the rise. Okay. Firstly. Secondly, our planning is to adjust the business. It is easier for new businesses, but it is quite challenging for the existing businesses to adjust so that we can embrace what we call the Industrial Revolution 4. The Industrial Revolution 4 is about businesses that need to go for digitization and a lot of use of this Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, because that is the business of the future. That is the business now, and that is the business in the future. So, okay, but different business is affected a different way. Okay, the current Industrial Revolution 4, the least among the top 10 least affected business is legal profession. Legal profession. So my kind of business is the one that is least affected. But you have to check what kind of business that you are trying to set up, because different business will be affected differently with the Industrial Revolution 4. I hope by now you understand what is Industrial Revolution 4.0. It is the emergence of digitization, Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, such as blockchain, chain technology, and things like that. Okay. So the planning is to how a business, a legal firm, have to adjust to all these things. And immediate planning, as for my business itself, we are looking for more collaboration, more partnership, so that we can increase our market share, or more, we can get more work. In other words, in simple work, we can get more work with the reduced cost. So therefore, our planning is to get more joint ventures, more partnership with less cost. In other words, our partners will take care of their own overhead and costs in running businesses. Okay, so that is the immediate plan, the real thing that I'm talking to you and telling you. Yeah.
Yep.
Can you explain what do you mean by that?
Like when you meet client, how do you handle, like if they showing some behavior, things like that.
Or how I handle client. Hmm.
Yeah.
Any particular or specific situation that you are referring to, or this is a general question?
Just a general question.
Oh, okay. In business, the different business we have to handle client differently, I think. As for a legal profession, macam mana? Because I'm trying to figure out what do you mean by that actually. Because there are many answers to that. So I do not know which answer that I want to, which response that I want to, which one that I want to share with you. Do you mean handling client or customer, or do you mean
Handling
what?
client and customer.
Handling?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. 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 For legal profession, okay. Satunya, I think we have to okay. There are several things lah. Firstly, you have to be prepared before meeting a customer or client. Be prepared means this is generally for business. For example, before you meet a client, you have to be prepared. For example, you have to know the client. You have to know the background. You have to study the client. Okay. For example, good example. Before we have this video meeting, if you know who you are going to interview, for example, you can Google the person. You can know the background. You try to understand the business. What are the activities? What are your opportunities that you may have before you meet your customer? Okay. So that is the basic thing. So you have to, for example, if you want to meet a representative of company, your client, so you have to study the company. You look at your expertise, and you try to find out what are the things that you can offer to the company. Understand?
Yes.
Okay. So for example, I do not know what are you doing, your courses, I do not know. But if you are doing, for example, graphic, okay, you can see, for example, you try to search and Google the company information, the financial report, for example, how much they spend for advertising. And you can see how much is the advertising budget there. Okay. So if you supply something, you can see how much is the budget, what kind of business, and what you can supply to the company. As a legal profession, for example, you can see how many employees, how many contracts, and you can try to figure out what are the needs in so far as the legal services are concerned. So therefore, handling customer client is firstly to know your customer before you meet them. The meeting and your business negotiation will be very effective because you know the person. You save the time, and you know to ask the right question. You know how to pursue or try to get opportunity to do business in the right way because you know the business activities of the company. And now to do this is a lot easier than before because now basically if you Google or you can through the Facebook or fan page or Instagram, you already can understand the business of your customer. I think that is firstly how to handle. And secondly is I think to get the confidence of your customer. The first meeting may be important. You have to get the confidence. In the first few minutes that you meet, either 30 minutes or 1 hour or 15 minutes, that is your first impression to the customer. And within that first impression, you have to get the client confidence in you. Okay? Even though one cannot have all information in that 15-minute meeting, but it is very important to make the first impression. But some people say that you have to make your client impress, but don't overdo to over impress your client. Just be natural and try to create confidence in the client. Depend on the expectation. For example, if the client expect you to solve their problem, a lot of problem, you have to be able to show that you are knowledgeable, or your company is knowledgeable, or your team is knowledgeable. And if your client need your experience, then you have to show that your team is experienced. If you yourself is not experienced, then you can show that there are people with you that are experienced, that become your resource person to solve the customer's problem or issues. I think, yeah.
Last question, sir. What would be your advice for future entrepreneurs to solve problems, place where they want to start their business, like any kind of problems? Yeah, that's my question.
Okay, I think the place to start the business, we have discussed that earlier.
Yes.
If the business is online, it depends on the business. Whether that business require a lot of walk-in people, then the location is very important. If the business require high volume of people, like restaurant and physical outlet, then the place is of course at the malls, or the place where you have highest volume of people. But this kind of venue, normally the rental is a lot higher. Yeah? But even though the rental is high, but normally you have a lot more customer, and therefore a lot more sales, and therefore it will be worth it compared to the place that the rental is very cheap, but there is nobody there. So even though the rental is cheap, your cost is low, but you have no sales, you have no customer. So that defeats the purpose also. Okay, because the bottom line of business is to get sale, to get revenue. So therefore you have to go to the place where you can get the most revenue, notwithstanding that the rental or the cost of the venue is high. Yeah? That's why for some good businesses, their premise is at the entrance of the mall, for example. So the rental must be very high. Yeah? I think it must be very expensive. But still the business can sustain, because that is where, that is the most strategic location, the most accessible place in the building, and therefore the most people will drop by and the potential to become your customer. I see. So for some businesses, therefore, the location is very important, even though it is quite expensive. But for some business, you don't need a premise. You don't have to spend for the premise at all. You don't have to have a store. For example, if you can find that kind of business online, for example, you don't have to a place to keep your stock, because the stock is in other people's shop. For example, you don't have to worry about location because people order online, and you have a delivery guy to deliver the product to the customer. So therefore, the location is quite subjective. But the bottom line is what it takes to have a lot of more revenue. Therefore, the cost of the venue comes later. Okay, for financial, I think I mentioned earlier, you have to have a strict financial discipline. Financial discipline means you have to be very focused. If the proceed from the income is for certain purposes, you shouldn't use that money for other purposes. Okay? For example, when you got some income, the income is to be used again for the business, to buy stock, to buy material, to pay the salary. So therefore, before the amount of money is sufficient to reinvest in business for the business operation, you shouldn't use that money for something else. So that is financial discipline in simple sentence lah. So for example, suddenly you would love to buy Harley Davidson. So since the money is needed for the business, you shouldn't spend the money to buy a motorbike, because the first priority is the business. You have to make sure the business sustain and the business can continue without interruption. So therefore, that is what I mean the financial discipline. In the bigger financial term, they call it don't do cross funding. Cross funding, you get some money for something, but you use that money for something else. No. So that is, I think, some advice, financial management. Yeah.
Okay, it's been an honor to have the opportunity to interview you today, sir. We would like to thank you very much for giving us your time.
Yeah, welcome, thank you, and I hope the conversation is useful, and I hope you can benefit from our discussion. Wish you all the best also.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.